You've seen a wrestling match. Sometimes if you look at a wrestling match, if you had a still shot, or if you could freeze the camera for a moment, it would look as though the two people that are wrestling with each other are actually embracing. They're hugging one another. Obviously, we know that they're in a fight, but if you could isolate the context, it would look like they were actually hugging and embracing one another. So there's a fascinating wrestling match in this week's Parsha, Vayishlach, where Yaakov is trying to reconcile with his brother Esau, after 22 years of a fallout, and working towards a reunion. And Yaakov meets the archangel of Esau, and they have a wrestling match. And by Ye'ovik ish imoy, and this person who was actually the archangel of Esau, the malach of Esau, is wrestling with Yaakov. Eventually Yaakov wins the wrestling match, and the angel surrenders, and Yaakov earns the title of Israel. So in this teaching, below in the link, we're translating for something different. We've translated a text this week which comes from the Mitteler Rebbe Dov Ber Shni Uri, the second Chabad Rebbe. And it's a teaching related to this week's Parsha where he speaks about a fascinating inner struggle. He says that the word for war in Hebrew is krav. You've heard of krav maga, that combat developed in Israel. Krav means a war, but it also means closeness. Like karov is a relative, or close. So ironically, the word for war is the same as the word for closeness. And so the Mitteler Rebbe teaches in this discourse that even though it appears that when people are warring and battling and fighting with one another, they're opposites, they're in opposition, they are in disagreement, but in order for them to battle, they need to come close. In order for a wrestling match to happen, the two opponents need to actually engage, physically come in contact with one another. And even though it's a bodily wrestling match, but really it's a wrestling match of the spirit. And so he says that this is the same idea as the inner battle that we experience between our own inner divine soul and animal soul. The inner divine soul is the Yaakov, the Jacob within us, and the animal soul is like the Esau. And this inner wrestling match has to also happen where there's an engagement between these two souls, each one trying to overcome the other one. And that's what happens during prayer. Prayer is called shorturl in the Zohar, a time of battle. What's the battle? An inner battle between the two souls, each one trying to overtake the other one. And the purpose is a closeness, which means that they're not just trying to wrestle and beat the other one up. They're actually trying to overtake and incorporate and subsume the other one's energy within itself. And so it's important to keep in mind that the purpose, the maybe subconscious or unconscious goal of a wrestling match or of a battle is actually that the opposition sees something that they want in the other, and they want to have that included within themselves. So there's actually kind of an unusual desire for union. I want what you have to be within me. You want what I have to be within you. Who's going to win? But really, the motive, whether conscious or not, is a unity, a union. Having these two energies submerged into one, the question is which one? And so I encourage you to take a look at the link where we've translated a discourse from the Mitteler Rebbe, who's today we celebrate his release from incarceration for spreading Chassidus and Yiddishkeit. And it's a discourse on the words Padah v'sholem nafshi, God has redeemed my soul in peace, mikrovli, from those who battled with me. And King David HaMelech said this pasuk, referring to the battles that he had. And he talks about emerging peacefully from a battle. And this is a very big theme in the Hasidic discourses about how we emerge peacefully from within the battles within us. And it's very apropos to today's celebration, this week of Yud Kislev, as well as the Parsha Vayishlach, and it's a kind of a convergence of the celebration of Yud Kislev, the Mitteler Rebbe's teachings, and this week's Parsha, where we talk about the battle of Yaakov and Esau. Have a good Shabbos, have a good week, and enjoy the study.